Great Achilles, brilliant Achilles, shining Achilles, godlike Achilles. How the epithets pile up. We never called him any of those things. We called him the Butcher. Swift-footed Achilles. Now there's an interesting one. More than anything else, more than brilliance, more than greatness, his speed defined him. There's a story that he once chased the god Apollo all over the plains of Troy. Cornered at last, Apollo is supposed to have said, "You can't kill me. I'm immortal." "Ah, yes," Achilles replied, "but we both know if you weren't immortal, you'd be dead." Nobody was ever allowed the last word, not even a god. Hello and welcome back to the channel. Welcome for the first time, as I always say. Hopefully you enjoy this video where I am going to be talking about The Silence of the Gales by Booker Prize winner Pat Barker. This is the first instalment in her Women of Troy duology. I believe it may become a trilogy, but yes, today we're talking about The Silence of the Gales. And before we get any further, I will just read a short premise. When the Greek queen Helen is kidnapped by Trojans, the Greeks sail in pursuit, besieging the city of Troy. Trapped in the Greek soldiers' camp is another captured queen, Briseis, condemned to be bed-slave to Achilles, the man who butchered her family. She becomes a pawn in a menacing game between bored and frustrated warriors. In the centuries after this most famous war, history will write her off, a footnote in a bloody story scripted by vengeful men. But Briseis has a very different tale to tell. Now I can take my glasses off again, but hopefully you enjoyed the sound of that premise. So from that you can instantly tell this is a feminist retelling of the Trojan War from the perspective of Briseis, and it subverts much of what we have come to know through the Iliad and retellings since then. Obviously this is one of the most famous stories of all time, and many books that I've read I've thought it's just regurgitating what I've read already, but this is different. And when it first came out, it was a huge hit, but lately when I watch videos where people are talking about their famous Greek retellings, this isn't mentioned, which I think is just wrong, because it is a beautifully written book. It is so impactful, so powerful, and you heard from that little extract I read out from the beginning, that is the opening line, and how powerful it is. It is really going to give a different lens on the Iliad as we know it. So Briseis is thrown into slavery after being one of the aristocracy of the Trojans, and yes, it is similar. I said in my Wolf Den review that I would recommend reading this if you enjoyed that. So it's similar in the sense that this is about a swift change of lifestyle and trying to adapt to what is a horrifying life to live and a horrifying circumstance to be in. And yes, we get a view of the heroes as we know them, but from the Greek camp, off of the battlefield, and also the women who often fade into the background of the Iliad and retelling since are at the forefront of The Silence of the Gales. And it is so interesting because of this. And my brother Ed, he said some very bold words. He said this is what the Song of Achilles should have been. Not my words, his. But there you go, that shows how much we brothers both absolutely love this. I think this is a beautifully written story. Pat Barker is a Booker Prize winner for the third instalment in her Regeneration trilogy, which is about the war poet Siegfried Sassoon, and Wilfred Owen is in it as well. It's about their time during World War One. I've read the first instalment, thought it was brilliant. I need to read the next two. But anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. This is The Silence of the Gales, and I think it is absolutely just stunning in how it shows the disparity between life before war and during, but also the contrast between the power of the men and those in control and those who they take as slaves. Briseis, it's very interesting that she's the main character, but she has no agency. She is essentially a spectator watching great events unfold, and there is nothing she can do. She is caught in a great storm of change, and all she can do is attempt to survive. Briseis is such a fantastic POV. She is the only perspective in this book, and she is absolutely fantastic. She is such a tragic character. She's got a story to tell which is absolutely heartbreaking but riveting at the same time. You just cannot take your eyes away from the page. She becomes less trusting. All she can do is try to survive in this landscape where she is the pawn of others. She cannot do anything that she wants to do. She has no agency, and as I said, her sole purpose is to try to survive, and she tries to help some of those around her at the same time. And it's Absolutely amazing and really heartfelt, this story, and I absolutely love how it shows she's a character who goes through so much, but she still finds something in her to look after others. And whilst I wouldn't say there's hope, there is no hope, but there's a sense of trying to carry on and forging bonds of camaraderie of those around her, which is really important in this sense. I love in a lot of books that I read those kind of themes of friendship, loneliness, camaraderie, and the effects that they have, and that is prevalent here as well. Another one of the most interesting things about this book is I think Pat Barker does a brilliant job at commenting on the preoccupation that humanity seems to have with legacy, and that really resonates to us today. It's about what are we going to leave behind, and in the Iliad it's famous that Achilles is given the choice to either stay at home and live a nice life or go to war and die, but he will live in history forever. And so yes, that is a very prevalent question in this, is why are these people engaging in war which they won't see the benefits of, and it is really tragic for everyone involved, the Greeks, the Trojans, and everyone who is caught in the midst of this conflict, which goes on for a decade or more. So yes, this is really a book about power, identity, loneliness, and legacy, and doing what you can just to survive, and the impact that has on you and how you view the world. It is absolutely brilliant. I would recommend reading The Wolf Den if you enjoy The Silence of the Gales. As I said, it's similar in that sense of being ripped from your life and thrust into slavery. This is a Trojan retelling, whereas The Wolf Den is historical fiction, which is set in Pompeii. There is the sequel, The Women of Troy, which I thought was also brilliant. Perhaps I think The Silence of the Gales just edges it for me, but The Women of Troy is still by far a 5-star read for me. And I just saw when I was doing a bit of preparation for this video that there is going to be a book 3. I'm pretty certain there is. It said that the book's going to be The Voyage of Briseis, or The Voyage of the Women. It's called something like The Voyage of something, and so I'm very excited. I'm going to be looking into that straight after this video. So yes, definitely do read The Women of Troy, the sequel. Absolutely brilliant. Pat Barker is a sensational writer. The characters in this are brilliant, and the prose amongst the top 10 writers that I've had the pleasure to read their writing, and the plot is so great as well, and I love how she really subverts expectations with a lot of the characters, shows us a different lens, and I absolutely adore how Achilles and Patroclus in particular are presented from the eyes of Briseis, and it's done so well, where these characters, they are heavily flawed, they have despicable traits, but they are also human, where you see that they have virtues as well as their flaws, as I said. So yes, so interesting in that way. Pat Barker does not overlook anything in that respect. Nothing is as simple as it seems, and she does an absolutely brilliant job in this Trojan reimagining, retelling, and I think it's probably my favourite retelling of all time. So yeah, that is The Silence of the Gales by Pat Barker. Highly recommend it. Hopefully you do give it a go. Please do let me know in the comments below if you have read this, if this review has intrigued you, and also if you think I should do a slightly different setup for my reviews. At the moment I'll kind of talk about points that I think are interesting in how they kind of link into each other, but if you think I should do it slightly different, please do let me know in the comments below. But for now, thank you so much for watching, stay safe, and read The Silence of the Gales.